Hello and welcome to another episode of It Could Have Been a Classic, where we all troll through the shite, the shit, the classic, the waste, and all the type of stuff that went by in history that forgotten about, but somewhere it had the potential to go somewhere. So in this week's episode, I will be talking about the 1997 TV series Nightman. But first, before we go into it, we're going to have to go into some history. So I'm going to call up Wikipedia and take a look. So Nightman appeared, right, hang on, let's get this straight. I had all this set up and there's loads of problems. Nightman is a fictional superhero created by Steve Engelbert and Rick Obig that exists in the Ultraverse line of comics, who possess the super ability to hear the thoughts of those people around him. His real name is John E. Domingo. A talented San Francisco saxophonist. He was adapted in a live-action television superhero series from 1997 to 1999. Nightman appeared as a civilian in Strangers 1 and became a superhero Nightman, first written by Steve Engelbert. As part of the Ultraverse, the comic was set within a shared universe of superpowered beings called the Ultraverse, and published by Malibu Comics, which got bought out by Marvel Comics. And the character was depicted in his own series that lasted 23 issues from October 1993 to August 1995, after the Black September event. Nightman was relaunched in a new series that lasted 5 issues from September 95 to December 95. He had a crossover with Wolverine in a one-shot, Nightman versus Wolverine. Are you kidding me? Finally, the character was depicted in a limited series of issues called Nightman Gambit that lasted from March to May 96. In that, Nightman teamed up with Gambit. Oh, God, right. Fictional biography. Right, so basically, there's been a lot of history in comics. Malibu, it got bought out by Marvel, the Ultraverse. I remember I'd never really followed the Ultraverse. Now, there was an Ultraverse cartoon series. I forgot the name of the cartoon series, but Nightman did turn up in that in 1 or 2 episodes. But what we're focusing on today is the television series. The live-action TV series. Nightman is a Canadian live-action superhero television series developed by the legendary Glenn A. Larson that aired in syndication from September 15th, 1997 to May 1999. The series is loosely based on the character from the Nightman comic book, published through the Ultraverse imprint by Malibu Comics, which was later purchased again by Marvel Comics. The show stars Matt McCallum as the title character, a superhero whose real name was Johnny Domino, a saxophonist. Nightman is also one of the few series to cross over with characters from Larson's previous series in the episode. I'm not going to get into that yet, but there was a crossover, and I've actually got a copy of it. It's terrible. With Professor Jonathan. Oh, yep. Manimal will go into that. Right. So, plot summary. Johnny Domino is a well-known San Francisco jazz musician who is accidentally struck by a lightning bolt in a freak cable car accident. The strike allows him to telepathically recognize evil, but robs him of the ability to sleep. Although Nightman has no other superhuman powers of his, he owns a special blue cape, bulletproof black bodysuit that gives him several abilities, including flight, holographic, camouflage, style, invisibility, advanced sight functions, comms, through the round lens of his left eye of his mask, including ability to see in the dark, fire a laser beam. Although he often fights new enemies in each episode as the series progresses, his nemesis is computer technology's billionaire Kieran Reeves, who would slay Johnny's father, Frank Domino, in the premiere of the second season. I remember this. I've been trying to... Now, all these episodes were on YouTube, but they've been moved. I've noticed recently that YouTube have been purging quite a lot of things, you know. So it's all been a bit annoying. So I've had to get the old box set out and watch 1 or 2 episodes. So I'm going to go back into this. I mean, Nightman is an interesting one, right? Let's go back to the. Here we go. Right now, I can focus now. So that was the brief history of the series. It was 22 episodes in each series. Now, I caught this on Sky One at 11:30 at night. I come in pissed one night, and it were on, and I watched it. And there were 2 episodes a week on Sky One. Now, I don't know how this got past me. It did. It was like they were just running out. You know where they're running episodes off to get rid of it, and. I sort of became hooked, and I remember, I think it was Monday nights about 11:30. There were 2 episodes a week on Sky One, so I started watching them, and I sort of got into it, and then they moved it again, and then they put it on later in the week on another day, and I tracked it down, but by that time I've forgotten about it. And then season 2 came, and then I think they put that out about 8:00. They gave it another shot, and it didn't work, and they moved it around. And I picked it up on a couple of other networks. Then it disappeared, forgotten about for years. Now Nightman, the character Johnny Domino is quite an amazing character. Actually, it's this like fella who's like perfect at everything. He's got the long hair, the model looks, and he's got this fantastic purple car, which is really cool. This guy, he just generates being cool, and he works at this Soul Man Club as a jazz player, has a beautiful girlfriend and all this. And his dad's a detective, and everybody seems like the club's sort of the focus. And he's on a cable car, gets hit by lightning. He's in hospital for weeks. And Patrick McNee turns up as a psychiatrist, and he tells him you're being touched by the power of the universe or something. But I mean, he can sense evil. I mean, really? Really sense evil. Now, he gets involved in some crime, and there's this science guy. There's always like the science guy, isn't there? And he gets involved in these inventions like anti-grav, laser beam, so it's all designed for like combat and all this other stuff. Somebody wants to weaponize it all, and he gets involved and puts the suit on, and they both team up and stop the villains. And every week he's flying around fighting crime and all this. Now, what's interesting about Nightman, you've got to realize, like, we watch superhero stuff today, it's quite intense and quite dark, and it does sort of follow along a lot with the comics. Now, the 90s were a bit of a weird one for superheroes. They were really trying to get it out there, and a lot of stuff were quite cheesy, wasn't it? Especially like TV series. I mean, have you seen Mantis, which will be coming up soon? Like Mantis, and they just never sort of got it quite right, did they? But Nightman tried. I mean, firstly, the costume he wears is amazing. It looks very good, especially the mask and everything about it. But the villains are cheesy. I mean, I've just watched one today with Count Volkov and Lisette Anthony, and she's a babe, right? And Count Volkov, it is really bad. I mean, he's like this vampire dude with cape, and he jumps over a coffin, and but actually there is quite a good fight, and like he's firing electricity at him after he destroys his coffin because he's a vampire, because he wants Lisette Anthony. She's his dark princess, right? And he's got his laser beam on at full power, and he destroys the Dracula cheap knockoff pound stretcher's clone, and he blows up outside at window. I mean, he does get an arch nemesis, this billionaire technological guy who kills his father later on in season, which has a bit of an effect on him. I actually remember that. And he meets, he does team up. I know on the podcast we've normally took the mickey out of this. Manimal, he teams up with it. There's an episode where he teams up with Manimal, and they both get together and take on this evil guy who wants Manimal's superpowers. So he sort of does get about. Now, some of the stories, all right, there's like back in the 90s, there was a certain sci-fi story doing the rounds on numerous TV shows. It was on Highwayman and all this, and it was sort of quite interesting, really. They reused that episode. It was like this story of this alien that lands, but he can jump from body to body. And Nightman destroys alien body, as does Highwayman in that episode. And I've seen it in another 2 other series. The story must have been bought up all the time, for scripts. Yet again, it were in a lot of Glenn Larson series. Now, there was quite an all-star cast in it. Patrick McNee, David Hasselhoff. There were quite a few other celebrities. Lisa Anthony, as I said. There were quite a lot of like semi sort of famous people. And the writing wasn't bad. Now, it's very Glenn Larson. It's very 90s. But you're not going to dislike this show. You know, because there is sort of like the villains are so like, some of them are like 60s Batman. You know, I know that's having a bit of a relive now, the 60s Batman. And I got to a point with 60s Batman where I couldn't stand it for a few years. I just went off it because you know. And then I've been drawn back to it now. I'm a big fan of it again. It was just somehow, I think it's maybe because I was growing up, I don't know. But now I appreciate it for what it is. Well, there is some pretty cheesy villains in this. And it's a bit sort of like, you're like, oh, come on, you know. So, like, when he, like, the vampire dude, it is hilarious. There's a female sorceress that's sucking up young men's energies and stuff. And there's episodes where he goes off to another dimension and all this. But the flying scenes, I mean, it's the same stock footage in every episode, but you know he's on a crane being pulled up. You know, he's being pulled up in every episode, which is absolutely hilarious. But it's not bad. I'd say I've watched about 12 episodes randomly. I've just chosen them. And I've really enjoyed watching Nightman. I think I'm going to continue watching a few more. Now I picked this up at a convention, you know, like copies of it, of DVD. I ship DVD quality. So I've been lucky to experience it in decent, you know, in a decent sort of set, which I'm quite happy about. And, you know, for what this is, it's pretty good. I've really enjoyed Nightman, and I think it had potential. Now, the thing that really sort of tops out for me with Nightman is the music. It's instantly recognizable because I've not heard the theme tune or the intro for years. When I heard the music, it just brought this back to me, and suddenly all the episodes started flowing in my mind, you know. So, Nightman is quite an interesting setup. You've got the manageress of the Soul Club, Detective Dan. His dad's a police officer. He's one of the best saxophonist players in the world, I assume, and he makes a lot of money. He's got this cool car. I mean, this is a cool show. It really is. And it's such a shame it got cancelled after two seasons. I think maybe it was the format, you know, but when they brought in the billionaire villain and that, and there was like a story act coming into this, I think there could have been something there. I think, could Nightman have been a classic? Well, we're going to answer that question in a minute. Now, it does have quite a bit of history in the comics and that, but this is like, let's call this another universe. And when they teamed him up with Manimal, I mean, Manimal, I just do not have time for. You know, I can't get into Manimal at all. I've tried. I bloody hate the series, and I won't be doing a Could Have Been classic on that because we'll know where that'll go. But I don't know. Man, it was part of growing up. I suppose at the time it looked good. I'll say one thing: the Manimal intro, the music is quite cool for Manimal actually. So I will say that's the one redeeming quality. But Nightman, there's some amazing shots. I mean, it's all like when he flies out of the club and he always sort of flies into the moon. They're trying to copy the whole Batman thing, you know, from 90s. And, you know, it works for this. I think they put the budget in this. This is not a cheap show. It's a lot of quality in it. I mean, I'd like to have seen them team him up with the 90s. Flash would have been quite cool. Because all these, they were out at the same time, you know, like they were trying to get these superhero things off and that. Mantis were around at the same time as well. And to be honest, I'm quite a fan of Mantis. So does it hold for Could Have Been a classic? Well, they got cancelled after 2 seasons, but it did win an award for its music. So I mean, you've got a great like supporting cast. Some of the stories are actually very good. And I like the flying scenes, and it is dated, obviously. But Nightman, it holds a special place in the Hall of Could Have Been a classic. It really does. And I'm going to give it the time. Now, if Nightman had gone into a 3rd season, I think Nightman could have gone to season 5. I think they would have had to have evolved the series in a certain way, but I can see the potential where this could have gone. I mean, he had this enemy called the Chrome or something, like, who his eyes glow. And he got affected because there were a couple of them on the cable car. They all got superpowers. And he's like telekinetic, but Nightman defeats him. There's an alien woman as well. She wants to get hold of his power of sensing evil and all this. So, I mean, they went all the way. Other dimensions, aliens, sorceries, vampires. I mean, it definitely touched in the right area. And for me, loving science fiction and comics and superheroes and all that. Nightman, it's a beautiful 44 episode run of enjoyment. You don't get bored of it, and the beauty is you can switch it off and go back to it whenever you want. Most of the episodes are contained. There is like one or two parters, but it's not bad. I think Nightman is good, and I do recommend you should check it out. Unfortunately, it's been moved off YouTube. They're having a bit of a purge of sort of television series, which I'm getting a bit annoyed about because this is where I get a lot of my content from. Luckily for Amazon, there is some stuff on there which I've chosen as TV series. There's one I'm really looking forward to doing, but I'm not going to say what it is. And it were cancelled after one season, but I'm going to have to watch most of the episodes. So, back to Nightman. I mean, it's all there. Every bit about this program, it's really good. I mean, the actor, he's a martial artist, and he really knows his stuff, which is sort of interesting. So, where do we stand with Nightman? Are we going to give it the title? Yes. Nightman, if it had gone to a third season, which I think it would have had, like I said before, it would have had to evolve. I think they would have had to have done a bit more with story and probably added, maybe getting a bit away from the comic. Because I've not really read the Nightman comics. I think I read the Wolverine team up years ago. And I think, is there a franchise here for Nightman? I think there could be, but I think today it could be. I think it'd be a lot darker if they'd done it today. But all in all, I think if they'd gone at third season, I think it would have radically you would have had to have altered it. Like made the villains a bit darker. Yeah, again, it's like with certain TV series when they get too dark and gritty, we get a bit fed up of it, don't we? Because there's so much stuff like that. And this is why this is so innocent, this show. It's like good versus evil. He's got a purpose. He's a good person. And most of the villains are just typical stereotype. And it's nice to see evil get pounced by the force of God. But, I mean, he can turn invisible. He's got laser beam. He can fly. He's bulletproof. And he's a martial artist. He can sense evil. I mean, I don't know what that's about. I mean, but let's not complain about that. Is there any faults to this program? Of course there is, but the sheer pleasure outweighs all that. Now, if Nightman, like I said, had gone further, could it have been a classic? Yes. I think Nightman has the potential, and I'm going to give it the title. You might not agree with me because maybe 2 seasons was enough, because some people are going to say to me, well, where are you going to go with it? Give him a big supervillain who's manipulating the situation in the background. He turns up and beats him up and wins at end, and he proves the point to himself. I mean, you could go down that path, but I think it could have gone somewhere. But yet again, Glenn Larson, I loved most of his stuff. It were pretty cool. So, it's in the Glenn Larson universe. But I'm going to give it, for my honouring Glenn as well, who I saw at Comic-Con years ago, I'm going to honour this. I'm going to give the title of Nightman Could Have Been a Classic. So I will see you on the next episodes, guys. This is just a quick one. And I'm quite excited about this. I'm going to get back to watching a few more episodes. Honestly, check this series out, guys. It's nice and simple to watch. And it's pretty cool. And there's a lot of hot chicks in this. And it's got that wonderful 90s feel. It's a great show. And the villains, you're just going to be in stitches. It's worth it. Get a couple of cans, get a pizza, kebab, whatever. sit in, get a few people around, put a couple of episodes of this, you're going to be like, yeah, this is all right, this. Right, guys, I will see you on the next video. There will be a live show Sunday at 5 o'clock. I will put an ad up for that after this. So I will see you on the next video. Guys, stay safe. We're 2 weeks into lockdown. Another fortnight. Hopefully, we'll all be allowed out again. So, see you soon.